What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, September 18th, 2023, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 5:28 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming out of Europe and Asia. But before I get into that, I want to just quickly show you guys what's going on right now. So we currently have a nuclear war command and control plane up in the air over Oklahoma. And this is a Boeing E-6B Mercury, also known as the Takamo plane, which stands for Take Charge and Move Out. And these planes can remotely launch all of our Minuteman III ICBMs, and they can also issue emergency war orders, also known as launch orders, to our nuclear armed submarines and our nuclear bombers. So, this is a very important plane, and it's up in the air right now over Oklahoma City. This is where their home base is at Tinker Air Force Base. And earlier this afternoon, we had two U.S. Doomsday planes in the air. One of them was moved from Offutt Air Base to San Antonio, Texas, which is really interesting. I've never seen that before. And one of them went from D.C. to Ramstein in Germany. So that's also very, very interesting. Here's one of those Doomsday planes landing at Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Okay, huge military base. It's the largest U.S. military base outside of the continental United States. And here's the other one that landed in San Antonio, which is just very, very weird. I don't know why it would land in San Antonio. There is an Air Force base over there, Randolph Air Force Base. If anybody has any ideas why these planes went to San Antonio and Ramstein, please let me know what your ideas are. Also, I'm asking for volunteers. I need your help to gather information on the movements of our military. And so I want you guys to reach out to me if you see anything unusual in your neck of the woods, if you see some unusual activity, you see a lot of military helicopters, military planes, or even just, tanks and stuff being moved by trains or some other means on the ground. Please send me an email, nyprepper85@gmail.com. And just make sure it's something pretty serious, because otherwise I'm going to get flooded with a lot of emails. And if they're not pretty serious, I'm going to have to waste a lot of time going through a lot of stuff. So just make sure it's something that's really unusual if you're going to do that. And I would really appreciate that. And any kind of information you guys have for me, feel free to reach out to me. Okay, email nyprepper85@gmail.com. And, if you have any flights you want to share with me, feel free to do that. If you follow the flight trackers, this way I can share it out to our community here. And we also had United States Nuclear Security Administration plane take off from Amarillo, Texas. Now, what's interesting about Amarillo is that's where the Pantex Plant is. The Pantex Plant is where the United States assembles nuclear weapons. It's the only place in the country where nuclear weapons are completely assembled or disassembled. So it's a very important area. And the Nuclear Security Administration is responsible for overseeing these nuclear weapons to make sure that they're not lost or stolen. Basically, it's like an accountability thing that was created after 9/11. They wanted to make sure that our nuclear weapons were accounted for. So I find this very interesting because if you recall my update from over the weekend about the nuclear warheads being moved in North Dakota, I find it interesting that just 2 or 3 days later, we have one of these taking off from the Pantex plant. The Nuclear Security Administration is involved in counting our warheads and stuff like that. So if we were in the process of uparming our arsenal, then they would definitely be involved in that. Okay. So let me just share the headlines with you guys. We have some major breaking news coming from NATO. We have Admiral Bauer from the Netherlands. He is the highest ranking NATO general, and he said that NATO could use up to 3.5 million soldiers in the event of an attack. And he said that in the first month of an attack, NATO would involve up to 300,000 troops and then subsequently call up to 3.5 million troops. Okay. So this is the admiral right here, Rob Bauer. He's the most senior military officer in NATO. He's the military advisor to the Secretary General of NATO and the North Atlantic Council. Okay. This guy is basically the top general of NATO, all right? And he is saying that NATO could field up to 3.5 million soldiers if war were to break out in Europe with Russia, okay? So, very, very concerning information. And he was basically saying that NATO is in the process of building up this massive army in case of a confrontation with Russia. So, guys, this is just more proof that uh, NATO is preparing for World War III. The United States is preparing for World War III. All these doomsday planes in the air every day now for the last 2 months, bombers being moved around, nuclear armed submarines being moved around to the theater, going to Norway, all this equipment going into the European theater. Okay. Things are really escalating, so we have to make sure we're getting prepared as best as we can. Let me read to you what he said exactly. He said, if they attack, we must be ready. So we need more militaries at a high level of readiness, and that's not something that can be done overnight. They will need training, weapons, ammunition, everything else. Therefore, we are talking about 300,000 military personnel at a high level of readiness. In total, NATO countries together with Finland and Sweden have 3.5 million troops. All right, so he's talking about forming like a quick reaction force of 300,000 that could quickly be deployed to different parts of NATO, like if Russia were to attack the Baltics or if they were to come through Belarus into Poland. So NATO is gearing up for World War III, guys, okay? This is very serious, and with everything else going on, like I said, all the bombers and nuclear armed subs going into the European theater, all the doomsday planes. I mean, there's just a lot going on. And we also have some breaking news coming out of Asia. Apparently, yesterday, Taiwan reported that China broke a new record in the number of warplanes that they sent to Taiwan for a total of 103 warplanes. And the previous record was 91. And that was in April of this year, April 10th. And the planes were detected between 6 a.m. on Sunday and 6 a.m. on Monday. And so, again, the most amount of Chinese warplanes to go towards Taiwan in a 24-hour period ever. Okay. Uh, Absolutely insane, guys. And apparently 40 of those planes crossed the ADIZ, or the median line, and went into the ADIZ, okay, Air Defense Identification Zone. So they got halfway towards Taiwan and then turned around and came back, okay. And I showed you guys, what is it, like a week and a half ago, those videos from China of all the tanks being moved to the port city closest to Taiwan, just dozens and dozens of tanks. So China's potentially gearing up to attack Taiwan, guys. Imagine what would happen if China attacks Taiwan, in the springtime, and then simultaneously North Korea attacks South Korea, and then Russia continues attacking Ukraine, and maybe they also attack the Baltics. I mean, all these fronts opening up, and then Iran attacks Israel or something like that. There's just so many fronts opening up around the world now. Okay, things are really, really escalating. We also have some breaking news coming from Australia. Apparently, in northern Australia, there's missile silos being built for the deployment of Tomahawk missiles, and Australia is going to receive 200 Tomahawk missiles from the United States. Okay, so they're building locations where these Tomahawk missiles would be launched from, and 200 Tomahawk missiles is no joke. And in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I'm speculating, okay, this is not a hard fact. I think that some of these Tomahawk missiles are going to get nuclear warheads. And I think that in the event of a serious escalation in the Asia Pacific region, Australia would have those Tomahawk missiles if they needed to uh, take out some Chinese targets. Okay, if let's say China starts to send aircraft carriers and stuff towards Australia, they could protect themselves. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of them have nuclear warheads, because the Tomahawk cruise missiles are capable of carrying the W-80 nuclear warhead, which has a blast yield of up to 150 megatons. We also have some breaking news that the president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, has already arrived in the United States, and he's going to be meeting with Biden. And he's also going to be meeting with Congress, and also he's going to be attending the UN General Assembly. So a lot of stuff going on this week. And we also have some interesting comments coming from the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov. He basically said that the U.S. controls the military actions in Ukraine. And he said this to the Russia One television channel yesterday. And I'll read to you exactly what he said. He said, "No matter what the U.S. says, the U.S. controls this war. The U.S. supplies weapons, ammunition, intelligence information, data from satellites. The U.S. is pursuing a war against us." And he also said, in response to Ukraine potentially getting long range missiles, he said, "I am unable to comment on that, but the fact that it will not change the essence of what is going on in Ukraine is obvious. While what is going on is that Ukraine has been prepared for a long time for inflicting strategic defeat on Russia using its hands and its bodies." Okay, so basically he's saying that Ukraine was prepared by the West and the U.S. to inflict strategic defeat on Russia. And he's saying that the U.S. is basically controlling the whole war, telling Ukraine what to do. Pretty strong words there coming from the Russian foreign minister. I'm not sure I totally agree with that. It's just another sign that things are escalating. Okay, Russia knows what's going on. They're not stupid. And we also have some breaking news in Poland. Poland and Ukraine are now having some difficulties over grains, and Poland instituted a ban on Ukrainian grain because their domestic farmers were suffering, because a lot of the Ukrainian grain was going into Poland, and Polish people were buying Ukrainian grain instead of grain from Poland. So Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary, all of them instituted a ban on the import of Ukrainian grain. And now Ukraine is threatening to sue them at the World Trade Organization, and they're also threatening to ban vegetables and fruits from Poland going to Ukraine. Okay, so some diplomatic issues here between Ukraine and Poland, which is not good, because Poland is a huge ally of Ukraine, and Poland has helped Ukraine probably the most of any country, proportionately, obviously, because they obviously don't have billions and billions of dollars of equipment like the U.S. does, but proportionately, when you look at what Poland gave to Ukraine compared to other countries, they gave more than any other country proportionately, based on how much their GDP is and the size of their economy, and basically opening up their country to Ukrainian refugees. When the war started, Poland allowed 5+ million Ukrainians to go into Poland and live there. The Polish government set up refugee centers free of charge for Ukrainians to stay in. Okay. And Polish people were opening their doors to complete strangers and letting Ukrainians live in their homes. Okay. And now the Ukrainian government is threatening to sue Poland. I mean, it's just ridiculous, you know. And then on top of that, Poland is now a target because Poland has allowed all the Western equipment to come into their country and then go to Ukraine. Okay, if it wasn't for Poland, all that equipment that Ukraine has received, all the HIMARS, all these tanks, Bradleys, they would have never got there because there's no other way to really deliver equipment to Ukraine. You know, they could potentially go through Romania, but it's not as convenient. I'm not even sure if there's a proper rail system from Romania that would be able to go into Ukraine. And a spokesman for the Polish government said, "We maintain our position. Ukraine's complaint to the WTO does not impress us in the sense that we have no intention of withdrawing the embargo we have introduced for this reason. We maintain our position. We believe that it is accurate. It also results from the economic analysis and rights resulting from EU and international law." Okay, so Poland can't destroy itself to help Ukraine. I mean, Polish people love Ukrainians. They helped Ukraine a lot, but at the end of the day, they have to, feed their people and support themselves. They can't just give everything away and not have anything for themselves, okay? Because that's not fair. All right. We also have some breaking news coming from Ukraine's chief of defense intelligence, Kirill Budanov. And he said that before winter starts, the Ukrainian armed forces can sever Russia's land bridge with Crimea. And he also said that Russia has absolutely no strategic reserves, okay, of men and equipment. So they're basically completely depleted now. We also have some breaking news that Russia is massing forces in Donetsk. Apparently, 52,000 troops and almost 300 tanks are massing in Donetsk. There were some explosions in Crimea yesterday, and Ukrainian media is saying that one of those explosions occurred in the area of the Russian Black Sea Fleet radio engineering center. So looks like Ukraine was targeting the radio towers or a radio center in Crimea for the Black Sea Fleet. We also have some breaking news coming from Latvia. Apparently, 3,500 Russian citizens permanently living in Latvia will receive a letter this week asking them to leave within 90 days. Okay, and that has to do with the Russian citizens refusing to get the proper paperwork to live in Latvia and things like that. So, huge news, guys. Lots of stuff going on. We got the UN General Assembly this week. And what you're looking at here are 3 P-8 Poseidon sub-Hunter planes that landed in the Seattle area. And this is pretty unusual to see this many sub-Hunters arriving at one time in Washington. Okay, this is pretty interesting. And as of right now, we have something going on in the North Sea. There's like half a dozen aerial refuelers just off the coast of Britain. And there's also some sub-Hunter planes and fighter jets. There's a Eurofighter Typhoon. There's a CC-150 Polaris, which is a Canadian aerial refueler. There's a British aerial refueler, a U.S. aerial refueler. And here's the AWACS plane right here. You can see doing this perfect circle here. So very, very interesting. And we also currently have a Russian Ministry for Emergency Situations plane coming back from Armenia, which is very interesting because Armenia has basically severed its ties with Russia. They started doing exercises with the U.S. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here. But it looks like Russia has lost control in the Caucasus. Not to mention Chechnya, the leader of Chechnya, is currently in a coma, possibly. And if he passes away, if he dies, we don't know who's going to take over. And it could be another Chechen war that starts because a lot of these repressed Chechens may feel like now's the time to rebel. When Russia's weakened with their war in Ukraine and Kadyrov is gone, might be a rebellion in Chechnya. Wanted to just show you guys the latest of what's going on in Ukraine on the front lines. So we're monitoring this pocket here near the city of Robotine, or the town, rather, not city. And this pocket is basically frozen right now. It hasn't really changed much in the last few days. There was a slight gain on the outskirts of Robotine, but not much. Okay, very little. But this is a substantial pocket. Look at how big this thing is. Okay. So I suspect that Ukraine is going to make a push through this pocket once they receive some more equipment. If they get those Abrams tanks soon, if they get the ATACMs, they might try to make a push to Tokmak before the winter. If they can at least get to Tokmak before the winter, that would set them up good for the spring. But that's pretty much it, guys. I'll keep you updated. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Hit the bell notification to get notified of uploads. And like I said earlier, if you have any information you think I should know or you want me to share, whether it's military movements, whether it's something else, send me an email, nyprepper85@gmail.com. Just make sure it's something important. Otherwise, I'm going to, get flooded with a lot of emails. So that's pretty much it. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.